feel like we know a little bit too much about comedians these days. They all have podcasts, and they all seem depressed, and they're complaining about it. We're just seeing a little too much of people. I say that as someone who has to put too much of himself out online. Who the hell wanted to watch The Marvels? Women our age, maybe a little younger, they can watch The Marvels, and they'll love it, and that's great, but they're not going to buy all the toys, and that's really where you're going to make a lot of your money on this. But I don't want to sound like anti-woke, because I'm not. That's why I feel like I'm annoyed with a lot of those anti-woke guys. I agree with some of the things they're saying, but they're overdoing it. They have to constantly be outraged and just assume everything is going to be bad. They all want to be the next MCU, but like some of them didn't have a plan. Credit to Zack Snyder with the Snyderverse. He had a plan. It was awful, but he had an idea of where he wanted that to go.
Hello and welcome to CultureScape, the show that interviews the geek creators and influencers who built nerd culture. I'm your host, Pete Pischke, and today we are talking about movies and Hollywood with none other than Tony from Hack the Movies.
Did I build geek culture? I didn't know I had a part in that.
It's a collective. It's a collective
Oh,
building.
okay.
We will discuss the current state of film and entertainment, his channel, Hack the Movies, what's going on with the MCU, with the new Captain America movie, and the terrible movies we love. Welcome to the show, Tony.
It's great to be here.
It's nice to have you here. You know, you've been part of my friend circle now for quite a few years.
Yes.
But I don't think I've ever actually done anything directly with you on like a podcast or anything. So this is nice.
I know. It feels weird it took this long to do it. I think you might have asked me, and I might have just missed a few messages, but we're doing it now, and that's all that matters.
Nice. I enjoy Hack the Movies. You have a wonderful, it's just a very funny show, and you really get in depth. Getting ready for the show I was watching. I watched, what did I watch? I watched your Blues Brothers review. That was really good. I watched Resident Evil Resurrection, which is a terrible movie, but I do kind of love that movie.
Resurrection? Which one was that? No, I think
Alien
it's
Resurrection.
Oh, you said Resident Evil Resurrection.
I was wrong. That was stupid.
I was going to say, there's a Retribution. I don't think there's a Resident Evil Resurrection. Yeah, Alien Resurrection.
I was combining the two franchises, two different reviews in my brain. Sorry. I have COVID brain a little bit.
That's okay.
Yeah, Alien Resurrection, which I love, but I know is terrible.
I don't even think it's that bad. I think it's okay. It's okay. It's unnecessary, but it's okay.
Oh, yeah. I also kind of want to see if we could maybe talk about Jim Belushi, because I know you're a fan of Blues Brothers, and I like
John Belushi, not so much Jim Belushi.
Jim Belushi, the live Belushi, the less popular younger brother.
Well, he's probably more popular now, but that's because John died. But
I know he has a weird, he fits weirdly into it because he like does like a bunch of stuff like if John Belushi was still with us. So he's like, is he in Blues Brothers 2000 maybe?
He isn't. I covered Blues Brothers 2000 with my friend Kaylee on her channel. Once over with Kaylee. John Goodman is the one who they try to make. There's two new Blues Brothers. There's John Morton, I think, was one of the new brothers, and John Goodman was one of the new brothers. So, and then there was that little kid Blues Brothers who sucked.
Yeah.
But yeah, Belushi wasn't in that one. It would have made the most sense to put him in there, but
Yeah, he had according to Jim, which is a sitcom a ton of people do not like. I actually love that sitcom. I have terrible taste. He's in like a few anime movies, and I guess these days he's super into weed. He has like a shop and everything.
Look, I wasn't the biggest Jim Belushi fan, but he was in Twin Peaks season 3, so he's cool in my book.
So tell us a little bit about Hack the Movies. How did you get started? I know that you're a bit of an old timer at the podcast game. You've been in this.
What the hell does that mean?
I mean, I'm not old, like not a negative connotation. I mean, you've been working on this for a long time.
You do this every interview. You're like, hey, welcome to the show. You're old as fuck. I'm kidding. No, the podcast incarnation of my channel has only been around since like 2020. I started Hack the Movies in 2010. I was doing just movie reviews, basically doing the Nostalgia Critic sort of setup that a lot of people were doing at the time. which is funny because now I've collaborated with him a few times. So it's funny when you end up collaborating with the people you admired. But yeah, it went through many different iterations. I was doing like troll videos for a bit. I did like fake trailer breakdowns and fake trailer reactions for a while, because people were looking up like legitimate breakdowns, and I would put like the wrong information in. I would like do characters and really just mess with people. But things turned around when I got the job with Massacre. James Rolfe, I worked on his channel for, oh God, like 4 or 5 years, I think. And we ended up having that show, Rental Reviews, which was the movie review show inside a video store. I would end up using that set for my little movie reviews. Eventually, that show ended during COVID, and I decided to basically just do a spiritual successor to it on my channel. So I rebranded my channel as a movie review podcast. And at first, it was like a replacement for Rental Reviews, but it's become its own thing in the last few years. It's very different now. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, I've been podcasting properly since 2020. I had another podcast, Castzilla versus the Pod Monster, where I just did Godzilla podcast. We went on a hiatus from 2021 to 2024, and then YouTube deleted our channel for no reason. So I'm working to bring it back. I have theories on why it was deleted, and it's stupid, but I will be bringing it back on Twitch and Rumble and the audio feed. So yeah, I just podcast all the time now.
Yeah, I know you were doing video stuff even before you were on YouTube. You were using like a different video platform, right?
Blip. Yeah, I used to use Blip back in the day. Remember Blip?
I barely.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love your show. It's very funny. I think one of the great things is you, besides being very detailed, you often bring in people who had some relation, or you contact someone that had some relation to the movie you're reviewing. Like not Resident Evil. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna say it again. The Alien Resurrection. You even contacted like one of the special effects creators
Al Gillis,
on it.
Yeah, because the queen, they show the alien embryo in the beginning of Alien Resurrection, and then it looks like a regular chest burster. But we know from the previous film it was a queen chest burster that they had built for the original film. And it was the same effects house and everything. And I asked him, like, why did you guys switch it to a regular one? And I was like, the toys are confusing because the toys have the right chest burster. And he gave a reason. Neither of them made sense. It wasn't his fault. It was like the director might not have wanted to know it was a queen, but it's like, but it couldn't have been anything else. And I love what he was just like, and when it comes to toys, we have nothing to do with that. So there's mistakes all over the place.
It is fascinating what information you're able to bring up for your reviews. I think that's really interesting.
And actually, at the time of this recording, I'm editing my Animal House review, speaking of more Belushi stuff.
Nice.
And we got Mark Metcalf in it, who played Niedermeyer in that film. He also played the Maestro in Seinfeld and the Master in Buffy. And I was very excited to ask him Seinfeld questions.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I just Belushi, just those films from like the 80s and early 90s. You know, that comedy era, it still feels so good when you go back to it. It's kind of sad how much comedy has just really dropped, I think, in the last decade. It's just kind of completely fallen off, at least in the...
Yeah, it has to be mixed with other genres now, I'm noticing. You can't just have like a legit comedy. It has to be like an action comedy, which I'm fine with. But I feel like studios just like won't greenlight a comedy unless it's mixed with another genre. Because I'm thinking of comedies that I liked recently that like did well. I saw the Love Hurts was really funny. I enjoyed that. But that was, again, a lot of action in that. Deadpool and Wolverine is another one. That was a real funny comedy, but it was tied to superhero stuff. Like, one of the best comedies I've seen was Saturday Night, which was about the first episode of Saturday Night Live. And that movie flopped, probably because it wasn't mixed with an action genre or something. I don't know why. I guess it's on the audiences for not going to the films, but Hollywood also isn't really pushing those films. I'm not really sure who's to blame for that. But yeah, straight up comedies are kind of disappearing. I don't know why.
It is weird because there's a few people. There aren't really any big replacements for those kind of named talents back in the day. Like someone like Belushi or like Chris Farley. it's hard to point to someone and say, oh, and this is today's Chris Farley. I don't know who that might be.
If there's no one these days. Also, I feel like we know a little bit too much about comedians these days because they all have podcasts and they all seem depressed and they're complaining about it. So it kind of, I guess that would color your viewing of like one of their movies. They're like, it's hard for me to laugh at this guy when I know he's like bitching about stuff on his Spotify show or something. That's my theory.
Could be. I think in general, like actors, entertainers, we just see way too much of them.
Yeah, a little too much. You need to like separate them a little bit.
Yeah, it takes a little bit away from that mystique of the superstar.
You know who does it well? Christian Bale. You only ever see that guy when he's promoting a movie, and then he just disappears.
That's true. Henry Cavill's pretty good overall.
Yeah, he seems like a chill dude. Like, they're out there, but yeah, I think these days you have to have like a social media following to guarantee some roles. So we're just seeing a little too much of people. I say that as someone who has to put too much of himself out online. So I relate to it.
Okay, well let's do a little background on you. So how did you get into being a movie buff? That seems to be you're actually a nerd on quite a few different franchises and fandoms. That comes up on your show a lot. But how did you get into being such a movie guy?
I just really liked movies. I think growing up in the 90s helped because that's when like special effects like leaped ahead further than it ever did before with like the creation of CGI, and even the old techniques were looking better. They had all been fine-tuned. But also I would watch a lot of like behind the scenes stuff growing up. And then as I got older, DVDs came out and I learned more about filmmaking. I don't know, I just always enjoyed movies, and at some point when I was a kid, I think it was with Alien, I was like, I want to know how these are made, and I just like did whatever I could to get into that world. And again, being the right age for DVDs to come out, where I could get all that information, just really grew my love of film. But yeah, I like pretty much a lot of different genres. I don't really have like, I mean, there's certain genres that I'm into more than others, like horror is the big one. But yeah, I just love films in general. I love to talk about them. I love to shit on them. I've made some in the past, mostly shorts. But yeah, it was just something I did as a kid. It was like the one thing that none of the other kids watch movies, but I was like into movies. And I found a few friends growing up who also were.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I think around like the 2010s, I felt like there was still a lot of that going on. I think, unfortunately, the younger, because it seems like movie people don't tend to be younger. They tend to be around our age and doesn't really go much below that, it's really interesting how much that has changed. Maybe that's because it's the state of Hollywood. Maybe that's because the format. I think there's something about the streaming that you don't quite connect to it the way you did with analog or physical media.
Although there are younger film people, I think it's just there's so many like genres and subgenres. Everything got real niche. So there's no one who's just like, I'm into like all this horror. They're like, because I see them at like conventions I go to, and they're like young girls who are into Scream and Scream adjacent stuff and maybe nothing else. Like they're into just slashers and that's it. Where I feel like our age, we were just like, oh, I like, if you like action movies, you're like, oh, I like the superhero action movies and these action movies. But now it's like people are only into certain types of things. So
it was harder to be niche. Like I remember like being an anime fan was like whatever you could find at the video rental store. That was kind of like it.
Yeah, you're right, because with streaming, you can find, it'll recommend things similar to what you just watched. So yeah, there probably are younger people that are watching a thing, they're liking it, and they're only watching the recommended stuff that is similar to that one thing that they liked. So maybe they're not branching out as much as we did back then, because yeah, we would go to the video store, or even like early streaming, we just see what looked interesting. I'm kind of gone back to that. I do these monthly wrap-ups on my show, where we talk about all new releases, and I'll put like the big ones out there, like whatever the big franchise film is. I'll talk about some horror, but I've been just picking weird indie stuff to sandwich in between, just because I miss doing that. I miss being able to just like look at a random movie, like I'm just gonna watch that and see what that's about. Maybe it'll be the most amazing thing ever. Maybe it'll be complete garbage, but I miss that kind of randomness in my life. So I feel like a lot of people are missing out on that.
Yeah, I've been diving a lot more into older films, like Golden Age of Hollywood films. I love that about film because you really can dive into, and there's such a great history there. Shifting to where Hollywood is today, uh, it's not a great place. Box office doesn't seem to be doing as well as it was pre-COVID, obviously. The cultural cachet isn't quite there. Captain America 4 just came out, and I think it did okay internationally, but domestically it did not do well at all. What is going on there? Because a lot of people feel like Hollywood right now, even things that used to be juggernauts, so the MCU was like, it was, hulking out, it was taking out everything left and right, and now it's...
Well, with what I've noticed, and I don't want to get grouped in with like the geeks and gamers crowd, but I feel like a lot of these, especially the Disney-owned stuff, I mean, there's a lot of people making mistakes out there. Warner Brothers, with their DC universe, stumbled horribly throughout that whole thing. But like Disney specifically, I don't know what it is. I guess the people they were hiring wanted to appeal to a different audience outside of its core audience. And that's fine. That is something you can do. The MCU was really good at that early on. Like my family, like my mom and stuff, were real into the MCU movies. They never read the comics or anything, but they made them work in a way that other people could jump on and be like, oh, wait, this is actually fun. I'm liking this. And then, I don't know, post-Endgame, it started a little bit before Endgame. They were like, we have to shift gears. And suddenly you have a bunch of like superhero stuff aimed toward just women and like minorities, which is fine. Again, I don't want to get grouped in with geeks and gamers. But at some point you start to like do that, but then they started just ignoring the whole core audience, which, to be fair, is mostly nerdy white guys. And I think those guys just stopped watching. Those are the ones who buy the toys and everything. That's what I wanted to say. I'm just like, those are the guys that kind of like kept you guys going. Still do all the other stuff, just don't go that hard in it yet. And I just feel like a lot of people who were really into those films early on just jumped out. Like, who the hell wanted to watch the Marvels? Did you?
No. I was into Phase 5 until about the Eternals, and I was like, oh no, this is...
And that's the thing. There are people who like those movies, and that's great for them. It's mostly like women our age, maybe a little younger, and they can watch the Marvels, and they'll love it, and that's great and good for them. But they're not going to buy all the toys or all the merch, and that's really where you're going to make a lot of your money on this stuff. And I feel like Marvel has learned that lesson now, but they're learning it a little too late. It's like, oh no, did you do a Lady Black Panther? Little kids aren't going to want to buy toys of that. Why did you do that? Because I go to like Five Belows and stuff, and it's just Captain Marvels and Lady Black Panthers as far as the eye can see. So I think that's what's going on with Marvel. And I don't want to sound like anti-woke, because I'm not. I like diversity and that stuff. I think they just leaned a little too hard into it. Same thing with Star Wars. Like, come on, you grew up in the 90s. It was mostly nerdy white guys who were real into Star Wars.
Yes.
And don't be wrong. There were women who were into it too. I have a really good friend who was into it. My co-host Johanna, probably more into Star Wars than I am, to be honest. But that's not all of them, and they're not all buying the toys. So I think when it comes to Disney, they need to remember what their core audience is and give them what they want, but not exclude they should still give different projects. You know, they should still do like Black Panthers and stuff. But like, I know he died, but like real Black Panther, not Lady Black Panther. That's stupid. They just have to like figure out who their core audience is again and give them what they want. Deadpool and Wolverine was a good step forward. That one did really, really well, and it's literally the opposite of all the other movies they've been doing lately. That's specifically Disney. Same thing with Star Wars there. But like, yeah, Warner Brothers, they need to figure out what the hell they're doing. Hopefully James Gunn can get that ship righted.
We can only hope.
Yeah, Sony's always all over the place. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking with Ghostbusters. And I'm not even talking about the 2016 Ghostbusters. They did like Ghostbusters Afterlife, which I hated. People love that movie.
They do.
I hated it. And I think all those people, when they said they loved the movie, I think they were just trying to spite the previous movie. And my evidence for that is none of those fuckers saw the new one. As much as they loved Afterlife and said it was saving the franchise and everything, Not a single one of them went and saw the next movie, even though Afterlife saved their franchise.
Yeah, I think they enjoyed the idea of the Ghostbusters
Yeah.
reboot more than they did the actual movie. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Force Awakens, or maybe like the first Avatar film.
Yes. Force Awakens, which I didn't mind. Force Awakens was safe, but if you spend $4 billion on a property, you should play it safe. They should have played it safe just a little bit longer. Instead, they got real lost in the weeds with like the Han Solo movie that they
That's
reshot.
right. I forgot about that. That's right. There was a Han Solo movie.
Yeah, that they completely reshot. They didn't have a plan. I feel like a lot of these studios don't really have a plan. They all want to be the next MCU. And even the MCU is having a problem being the MCU. But like some of them didn't have like a plan. Credit to Zack Snyder with the Snyderverse. He had a plan. It was fucking awful. It was terrible. But he had an idea of where he wanted that to go. And he was trying. And, you know, shit happened. It all fell apart. Star Wars didn't have a plan with where they were going. And we kind of learned that pretty fast. And that was a disaster. Yeah, I think we're going to see like less shared universes going forward. If the DCU can't fix things, people are going to make shared universe less of a priority. The only one that's really working right now is like the MonsterVerse does well, the Godzilla Kong movies, but they're not as interconnected as a lot of those other movies are. You can jump in whenever you really want with that franchise.
Yeah, and they're also much more spread out.
Yes, that is like one of the things I like about it. You only get one like every few years. It's not every year. That was the thing. We were hit so much with those films and then shows just constantly, and it's just like it's too hard to keep up with, which is why I stopped reading comics at one point. I was real into DC Comics and everything, and then they kept rebooting, and then like they would have these big crossovers and you couldn't really appreciate the story because you had to read all the tie-in stuff, and I'm like, I don't have time for this shit. And that's how I feel with some of the movies. I was like, I don't have time to watch all of Miss Marvel before I see the Marvels, so I'm not going to see the Marvels. Or Secret Invasion. I think that's what it was called, Secret Invasion.
Oh, it was bad.
That's what I heard.
I do not recommend.
I couldn't believe how bad those shows were. Like, WandaVision was, like, fun. And then besides Loki, and I like Loki, and I didn't even bother with Loki season 2, because I was like, you know what? It's probably going to suck, because most of the shows suck. The only ones I liked were Moon Knight, Hawkeye, and WandaVision. All the other ones were kind of garbage.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Do you think we're past the superhero film? Are we close to that? Are we going to move on to something else?
I don't know. We say that, but then like the Batman does well, Penguin does well, Deadpool and Wolverine does well, Guardians of the Galaxy. You just need to make a good one, really. But yeah, maybe audiences are just not prioritizing them anymore. I know I'm not. I love the MCU, and I haven't seen some of the newer stuff just because I'm just not prioritizing it anymore. But yeah, it'll probably always be around. It'll just be a while before there's like another big like superhero boom. Like you know, Batman in the early 90s came out and everyone tried to make a movie after that. They tried to do what you call it. They did the Captain America movie that went to straight to video. It was supposed to be in theaters and it went straight to video. They did Dick Tracy. They tried to do other comic book stuff, and then eventually that died down. And then it came back in the later 90s. So everything goes through waves. I'm actually shocked the MCU lasted as long as it did.
Yeah, this is like movie 35, right?
I know, but they need to slow down and reevaluate things because they're just not giving the audiences what they want. I don't know who Captain America 4 was for, which sucks because I really like Anthony Mackie and I was happy he got the Captain America mantle. And they're just giving him garbage to work with. I'm like, oh, he deserves better than this. His sidekicks suck in that movie. It was just a disaster. Not the worst thing ever. It's better than like Ant-Man 3, but it's still not great. That was another one that was terrible.
Yeah, Ant-Man 3 was when I was like, okay, the wheels are fully off.
Yeah, I said I was only going to prioritize characters I'm already invested in. And then after Ant-Man 3 and Thor 4, I went, oh, never mind. I got to rethink that. Like, I'm going to maybe wait till streaming for a lot of these.
Yeah, younger people, you don't understand. In the 90s, there was like, it was a superhero movie boom of it, just a smaller one. There were so many bad superhero movies, just so many bad. There's Steel, there was Spawn.
Yep.
The Phantom, although I think you do like the Phantom.
The Phantom's great. The Phantom is legitimately, I love the Phantom. Spawn is a disaster, but I really enjoy it. I have a lot of fun with Spawn. I think what helped the MCU is that they owned most of the Marvel characters. They had to share Spider-Man. They didn't have the X-Men until recently. But that also should have helped DC, but they decided to start their shared universe with Man of Steel, which was garbage. And I know there's probably a bunch of people in the chat right now yelling at me, Zack Snyder's a visionary. No, it was garbage. No one really liked it. But I think that's what helped those two. And I think that's why the superhero boom like really happened, because they managed to own all those properties. Whereas before they were all spread out. Like that, like this Universal had Hulk and Sony had Spider-Man and blah, 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 blah. Fox had Daredevil, which they eventually got rid of. They're like, Marvel, just take it. We don't know what to do with it.
Yet, of these new superhero movies, the bad ones, they're bad. You know, there are movies that are bad and they're enjoyable. And then there are movies that are just bad and it's like, no, I don't know. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, when they're bad, they're bad. What was like a really bad one? Black Adam was a disaster. That was legitimately hard to watch, and I don't know why a fan sent me a 12-inch Rock as Black Adam statue. They sent me that, and I'm like, you guys know I don't like the movie, right? I did a whole thing about how I don't like it.
It's like your version of the Mother's Milk Funkos.
Yeah, it's
on BPITU.
Mother's Milk. But yeah, there's just less of a reason to like get to the theater these days. That's what I think was struggling with Hollywood, which Hollywood's done this before. You remember they used to make, like, you learn about in the film school, they used to make like these big epics. They were doing like westerns and historical epics, and then they all like started flopping. People were just staying home and watching TV instead. So the big studio system kind of crashed, and then that's where you got like the birth of like the film school generation and like stuff like Easy Rider, and that kind of like brought it back. I feel like maybe we're gonna see that again, because the theater experience can be good. It's not good right now, but people might like to be like, hey, I want to witness this movie with other people, because that does enhance a film sometimes. It can also ruin a film sometimes if you see a movie with a real shit crowd. I didn't like Shin Godzilla and Deadpool for a long time because I had such a miserable theater experience. And then I watched them on my own. I went, oh, these are actually enjoyable when you're not surrounded by insufferable assholes. But there's also movies that I love seeing with a crowd, like Ari Aster's films, Midsommar and Beau is Afraid. I saw that with a crowd, and those were two of the best theater experiences I've had in years, because the audience just didn't know how to react to the things that they were watching on screen, and there was like nervous laughter. And it was just a great experience. So I feel like people might long for that, but they just got to put some good stuff out there. And there is good stuff out there once in a while. It's just hard to get people to get to the theater to see it.
And Nosferatu recently, I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, that was really good. That I was actually shocked how well that one did. That director's previous movie was amazing, and no one saw it. The Northman was incredible. And his two movies before that did well. I don't know why Northman flopped as hard as it did. But yeah, he really brought it back with Nosferatu, which I thought was okay. I wasn't like super blown away by it. It was a little too long for me. But yeah, I was actually real excited that a lot of people like that. A24, I know some people call them pretentious and stuff. Somehow they get people to go to the theater to watch their weird shit. And that has to be, you have to respect that. I do like, and what's the new one now? Neon is another one. They're just putting out weird shit, and it's actually getting people to show up. So I think that's what people are in the mood for right now. We've had too many big studio and franchise films. We just want to see weird shit at the theater.
Definitely. So there are lots of things we could talk about. Just list some of the films that you know are terrible, but you also kind of love.
Well, we talked about Spawn. That's one of them. I'm trying to let me think of a recent example. Have I covered one recently? As someone who loves bad movies, this is a hard question for me to answer. Okay, well, a lot of people, and this was like a big thing for my channel, a lot of people shit on Alien 3, getting back to Alien. But I think that's because they don't know there's a better version of the movie, the Alien 3 assembly cut. And I will fall on the sword for that one any day of the week. I think that's like a legitimately better version of the movie that shows that it actually is a good movie. Jason Goes to Hell is a lot of fun. I don't know why. That movie's not great. It's kind of a mess, and for some reason I can't bring myself to hate it. Last year I went back and I watched Lawnmower Man. Which is so stupid. And yet I watched it like 5 times. I'm like, I can't get enough of this movie. I don't know. Like I said, it's a hard question because I just love bad movies.
There is just something special about a bad movie.
Yeah. Although there are some bad movies that I go back to, and I'm like, oh yeah, these are bad. We did Waterworld last year.
Oh yeah, Kevin Costner.
Yeah. Spoiler: Waterworld. It still doesn't hold up. It still doesn't hold up. And I watched the director's cut of that one, and it still does not hold up.
It was a crazy expensive movie to shoot, if I remember.
Yeah, it was very expensive. What was the other one? Oh, yeah, I went back and watched Virus last year. Jamie Lee Curtis's Virus. That one is garbage. But when it comes to another deep-sea terror film, Deep Rising, I revisited, which was a huge flop when it came out. Incredible movie. Just a very fun, great movie. It had the unfortunate situation of being released right after like Titanic, so Titanic killed it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm looking through my list now of movies I've reviewed that are terrible. I'm looking at Dracula 2000. I'm like, that movie sucks. I've seen it 15 times. I could be here all day listing bad movies that I love.
Oh, where's some bad movies I love? Blades of Glory. I don't know why.
Yeah, I only watched that one once. That one was all right.
Maybe it isn't really terrible. I also really like what I recently rewatched, Tron Legacy.
Oh, I hated that.
You hate Tron Legacy.
I hated Tron Legacy. The bad guy's plan didn't make any sense. He wanted to come into the real world.
Yeah.
But he would have to exit through that computer that's underground, and he would destroy the building around it, and that would have canceled his plan.
So he would just have died. Does he just exit and that'd be it? They just like, oh,
he's literally getting spaceships loaded to go through the portal. I'm like, well, it's gonna show up down through the basement and it's gonna destroy the computer.
Yeah. Okay, that does make sense.
And then I was like, can those things even fly in the real world? I know they can fly in computer world. Can they fly in the real world?
Because he was a clone, did he have the memories or the knowledge of the real guy?
I don't know.
Great Big Lebowski.
I don't know, but his CGI face.
It would have been interesting. Well, I don't know. I know that was going to be like Disney's big franchise, right? And then they're like, it failed, so then they just bought Star Wars.
They're just now getting back to Tron. They're doing it again. It had enough of a cult following, I guess, kind of like the original Tron. Not like the original Tron was like the greatest thing ever. But I guess like every decade or every other decade, they'll put out a new Tron movie. I know people who love Tron, and I think they just like the Daft Punk soundtrack. And I'm like, it's a good soundtrack, but the movie sucks. And what is it now? 9 Inch Nails, I think, is doing the new one. But then they said Jared Leto's in it, and I'm like, I'm good. You can leave that.
It has like none of the same people in the new Tron movie, except probably, oh goodness gracious,
Jeff Bridges.
Thank you. So I assume Jeff Bridges will be back, but
hopefully
everyone else, I don't think they're coming back. So it's like 3 times the charm, I guess.
After Blade Runner 2049, I don't need Jared Leto to show up in a reboot of something I like. I'm good. I don't need it. I didn't like Blade Runner 2049. Oh, that's another thing with Hollywood. Just making really late sequels to movies. Stop. Please stop. We don't want to see our heroes elderly and sad. We don't want that. I don't know. That's really pissing me off. Like, who wanted to see a 90-year-old Indiana Jones? Did you? I didn't want to see that.
No.
Yeah, they keep wanting to bring back like the original characters, and I kind of blame the fans a little bit, especially Ghostbusters fans. They're like, bring back the Ghostbusters. I'm like, guys, they are fucking old. I'm pretty sure Bill Murray was strapped to a pole for his scenes in the new movies. Like, they can't stand. Stop asking for these guys to come back. They're very elderly.
What's his fate? What's his name? Who's the other half of the Blues Brothers? Aykroyd, right?
Dan Aykroyd, yeah.
Famously terrible ideas.
Yes.
Gosh, awful. Really bad.
Someone needs to rework his ideas, and those people are either dead, like Harold Ramis and Ivan Reitman, or they just don't work with him anymore. After Nothing But Trouble, people should have learned to not give Dan Aykroyd too much creative control. It's not going to work out that well.
Yeah, it's one of those things where kind of like, oh, okay, now I understand why these sequel projects never came together.
Yeah. Still can't believe you got John Landis to come back for Blues Brothers 2000. That was ridiculous.
Blues Brothers is a weird. It's almost like the California Raisins in a way, because it has like weirdly outsized cultural imprint. Because I mean, I'm trying to think of which theme park has like a whole Blues Brothers.
Universal Studios.
Yeah.
They have like the two guys that come out and sing. Yeah.
I'm like, the adults probably know what it is.
They're still doing that Blues Brothers show. I'm like, wow.
That's cool.
Yeah.
California Raisins. That's probably something younger people do not know about.
When are they bringing California Raisins
When is
back?
it coming back?
But yeah, they just keep bringing old stuff back. And it's fine to bring old stuff back like once in a while if you have like a good idea, but they're just bringing it back just because these companies are bringing things back just because they own them. And there's some fan base attached to them. And it's like, okay, you don't need to do that, though. Like Willow. Remember they brought Willow back?
Yeah.
And then they made it about girls. I think they made it about like two girls who were in love or something. I didn't watch it. But I'm like, what? I'm like, there are like maybe 5 Willow fans on the planet. And I guarantee you they're not going to want to watch this.
My buddy Eric Kane, who writes for Forbes, he's one of those 5 Willow fans.
I know. Did he watch the show? Did he like it?
He was getting mad. One time I said, people don't really care about Willow, Eric. He got so angry. I was like, oh,
no,
whoa.
There was a whole joke. Remember that movie Fanboys? There was a whole joke about it. They break into the Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
And they're like in the prop warehouse, and they're all like, oh, look, it's this from Indiana Jones, it's this. And then the one guy goes, look, it's the book from Willow, and no one responds to him. But no, I had 2 friends who love Willow. And I was like, are you going to watch that news show? And they're like, no, we're not dealing with that. I'm like, oh, shit. No wonder they took it off the goddamn app. They're like, we can't even get Willow fans into this, and no one else will care.
Well, it's like since the late 2000s, early 2010s, it's like anything that has any kind of fandom whatsoever, we're going to make a movie of it somehow.
Yeah.
And so you get Battleship.
Yeah. Oh, God.
The movie.
Yeah. But remember, like, that's another thing that Hollywood does, because I've covered a bunch of them on my show, but, like, from the early 90s to mid-2000s, it was remaking old TV shows. That was, like, the thing that they were doing. Addams Family, Beverly Hillbillies, Lost in Space. Mission Impossible is still going, and I think people forget it was part of that 90s trend of remaking old TV shows. So there's always like a trend, and then a few things will survive and keep going, but most of them will fall. So they're probably, getting back to superheroes, there probably are going to be a few superhero things that will continue to be successful, but I feel like the trend to pump out a lot of them will die off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to go on with Hollywood? I think the economics have definitely changed. China, for example, that used to be like, this is our future, the Chinese audience, and we'll partner with Chinese production companies. And now that's pretty much done from what I can tell.
Part of me's happy because they were ruining our movies with that. There were so many movies that were like, and here's a Chinese character who can barely talk, who we have to put in the movie to please the Chinese audience. And I'm like, oh my God, what was the Independence Day 2 had one of those scenes where it's like, we're the new team, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, I'm the Chinese, but they literally have like the Chinese flag behind her. And I'm like, we know what you're doing, Hollywood. Like, this is very obvious. Or even movies I like Godzilla versus Kong, it somehow ends up in like Hong Kong at the end. I'm like, really? We're going to Hong Kong? I'm like, okay. And there were a lot of movies that ended up in Hong Kong. Transformers 4 was one of them. So yeah, that was like something that they were trying, and I don't think it paid off it probably paid off in the short term, but Star Wars failed there big time. They kept trying to make Star Wars like a thing there, and it just wouldn't take off. But because they were pandering to China, they also had to make every movie like 3D, and I think people got annoyed by that. Because I feel like, what was it, Chinese mandated, it needed to be like in 3D and have a bunch of other. Yeah. So I think that's why like I said, I really like horror. Horror's in like a fun little area right now because it didn't have to appease a Chinese audience. They are low budget. They can experiment more without being like huge failures. But even that has a problem of just bringing back old franchises. Like that one Halloween was pretty good, the 2018 one. And then they did the 2 sequels. I'm like, no, you didn't have to do that. You could have stopped doing that.
2018, actually, you're right. 2018 is really strong.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And then other movies tried to rip off that. They did that horrible Netflix Texas Chainsaw movie, which was just a ripoff of Halloween 2018. Now they want to try it again with other movies. I'm like, no, stop. They're going to do that with I Know What You Did Last Summer. They're like, oh, wow, Jennifer Love Hewitt. It's going to be like her Halloween 2018. I'm like, speaking of a bad movie, I like that movie. I'm like, I love that movie, but I don't want to see this. And if I don't want to see this, no one's going to want to see this.
Yeah, China was like, because it was like, Hollywood was like, this is amazing. They give us all this money. We get to sell our movies to this huge audience. This is wonderful. And then China's like, well, we don't really need you guys.
Yeah, they're like, we kind of just like our own movies.
I was like, oh, whoops.
Also, it showed like Hollywood how much of like hypocrites they are.
Yeah.
Because here they're talking about how progressive they are, and then you look at their Chinese posters and they're like, take the black guy off the poster, put a mask on Black Panther, do this. It's like, well, we see you doing it over here. And then you're saying all this stuff here. So I feel like people just stopped trusting the studios. Not that they should have. I mean, they're in entertainment. But it was just one of those just like, guys, you can't like pander to us and then do the complete opposite for another country. Like, we know what you're doing. With the internet, it's easy to find out what you're doing.
Yeah, not to get into geeks and gamers, but I think this they don't quite zoom into the real issue there. But it's like people make this mistake of thinking that these huge industrial size entertainment companies are their friends because they're like, we'll talk about your pet issue. When it's like, no, you're just like any of those franchises. You're just there to be kind of useful for them.
Yeah.
They don't really care. It's not political in the sense that they're taking sides. It's more like, well, we think this is popular and we could benefit by it, and that's it. That's just all they care about.
If they were honest about it, it would be fine. It's like, hey, look, if we put him on the poster too big, they won't play the movie there, so we have to shrink him. Blame China, and everyone would be like, yeah, that probably is something that they would complain about. Instead, they just kind of ignored it.
I know, yeah. I did see that recently. The Captain America 4 at the theater in China, they had the big.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know what you call it. It's the big card
standee.
Yeah,
cardboard
the standee.
Yeah.
And it has big red Hulk, and then it has Anthony Mackie, but Anthony Mackie is shaded out, so it's just like a shadow figure. I'm like, whoa.
It was funny though, because early on people were complaining about like these Chinese movies that had like too many white people in them, and one of them was like The Great Wall, like it had Matt Damon and stuff. But then they learned that, they're like, oh no, the Chinese producers paid for them to be in the movie to make their movie seem more appeasing. It was funny. They're like, oh, what is this cultural appropriation of like, or whitewashing? It's like, no, apparently that was China's idea. They're like, no, put Americans in our movies so people go see our movies. I don't know how well it worked here. I don't think anyone saw 47 Ronin or The Great Wall.
I think I have seen. I don't think I went to theater to see it though. I think I actually have seen 47 Ronin.
They apparently like our robot movies, though. The Transformers did super well overseas.
Yeah, I don't understand people that like Transformers. It's just a different species of human, I guess.
Well, that's where I guess that's where like diversity helped that, because there are so many cultures around the world that love cars. So that had like a global appeal to people. So you have sci-fi action, which like kids would like with the robots, and then you have hot, cool cars, which everyone around the world would like, and they had hot babes. That's why I think Fast and the Furious does so well. That's why I like to kind of shit on the anti-woke people. They're like, diversity, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, but sometimes it does work out. Like, Fast and Furious has like a huge actor from like every single ethnicity that will play well in their countries. And it's focused around cars, which everyone likes. So that's why I feel like those franchises are still going. Although Transformers, the last two, I don't think did well, which is ironic because they were the best ones. Like, they finally did two good ones, and then they flopped.
It's that bad movie thing.
No.
There's probably this area where it's like bad is enjoyable, and then you get to okay, no one wants to see that. You get to really that people want to see that, but this middle ground.
It's also, you can only get people only give things a certain amount of chances. And Transformers 1 did really, really well. I enjoy that movie. It's fun. It's dumb. Transformers 2 was a mess. That was a bit of a writer strike thing, so I feel like people gave that one a pass. But yeah, then 3 was kind of weak, 4 was weak, and then 5, everyone jumped off. So by the time Bumblebee came, people are like, nah, I watched a bunch of those movies. They kind of sucked. I'm not seeing Bumblebee. But then Hollywood will just keep pumping them out. They did the same thing with, like, Hellboy. They put out 2 Hellboy movies recently. In 2019, and the newest one went direct to video. And it's like, guys, even the good Hellboy movies never did super great. Why do you keep trying this? It just doesn't work as a film franchise. I'm sorry.
They should have kept. They should have just. What everyone says the Hellboy is like. You should have brought back Perlman. Should have brought back Del Toro. To get back the OG.
Just to do one more, you would have done better than the last one. The last one would have been a fine like pilot for like a show, but it doesn't work as a movie.
No.
Yeah.
It's interesting about Hollywood because I think I've been digging into like golden Hollywood and classic Hollywood history. It's fascinating because you can go back to the very beginning of Hollywood in the 10s and the 20s, and they're still doing all the same crap they do today.
Yeah, they don't really learn, do they?
No, it's amazing. It's like, yes, they're abusing contract. Yes, they're breaking laws. Yes, they're taking advantage of their audience. Yes, they do all that. They've always done all that. That's what they like.
And they're also jumping on trends. They'll jump on a bunch of trends, whatever's popular, which, I mean, that is a way to stay relevant. You got to adapt with the time. But then they'll do too much, and people will get tired of it. Like, the people got tired of way too many Westerns, way too many, like, sci-fi robot alien invasion stuff. They oversaturate us, I think.
So many musicals. 30s and 40s, so many musicals.
That's why, like, you had like the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It was just a little different. There were all these subgenres like popping up, and that's why a lot of those movies from those times are like super remembered. And then you get to the 90s where there's like which I love 90s movies, but then like this movie has to be made to sell a soundtrack and toys and this, and then it got a little bit commercialized.
I like the look of a lot of 90s films, though, because I think that's kind of the zenith of the nicer film-looking kind of films.
Yeah.
I think in some of the late 70s, and even in the 80s, you have some really strong lookers. I think like Taxi Driver from the 70s, for example. That just looks fantastic. I think you still get some of that till the 90s. And then they go to digital, and some digital films can make it work for the most part. Not so much. We've lost a lot of that filmography kind of texture to films today.
Yeah, it sucks, but I mean, film is expensive. It is very expensive, and that's unless you're like a Nolan where you have multi-million-dollar budgets to afford it. It's probably just not worth it for a lot of filmmakers. I know, like David Lynch went all digital. He's like, I can get a bunch of takes, as many takes as I want. I can experiment more. It looks fine. Yeah, some early digital movies kind of look like shit. Like Attack of the Clones looks like shit. But it's gotten better. It's definitely gotten better. And now you can add like texture and like filters and LUTs to it to give it that old school feel. But like I said, I love the look of film. It's too expensive a lot of times.
It is. I watched your review of the different Hobbit movies. So the Lord of the Rings movies, and then you also talk about Hobbit. Do you remember high variable?
Yep.
Frame
rate. Yep. They were trying. Avatar did that first, I think. They did the 48 frames, and then Peter Jackson went all in on 48 frames, high frame rate 3D, and that turned out not being the future.
What did you think of that? It had kind of looked a little. I liked it, but I kind of like weird things. I like 3D. I like the weird. I wish I could see one of those Panavisions. They still have those theaters that have like the elongated screen. I like that kind of thing. But
I would love to see those. I would like to watch. Oh, what was when I was in Rochester, because that's where Kodak Film was. Apparently, there's like a theater there that will like screen like silver nitrate like movies and shit.
Wow.
Things that were shot on that kind of film stock, and I would love to see that projected. But yeah, the high frame rate, it just looked too much like a live TV broadcast. It lost that cinematic feel to it. It's interesting to watch for a little bit, but it just never feels like I'm watching a movie. Like I remember my TV, I had one TV that had that motion blurring thing that kind of gives you that higher frame rate feel, and I'm like, I don't like this when it's like a film, like a narrative, because 24 is like the closest to how we see, I think. And 48 is just a little too much information. It's fine for like sports and stuff or live broadcasts, but in films, it just takes me out of it.
Yeah, I guess the idea was at 48, you're just doubling 24. So the thought maybe you're still I don't have quite the right words to express this, but maybe you're still getting the kind of moving image that you would get with typically, but you'd somehow be higher. I don't know. I don't know the science of it very well.
And who knows? Maybe it's just because we are only used to like 24 to 30 frames. So it was just too jarring for us. Who knows if Hollywood went all in on it, maybe we all would have adjusted to it at some point. But instead they did not do that. I can't remember the last time there was a high frame rate movie. I think it was Hobbit 3. If they even did it for Hobbit 3.
I saw the first two Hobbit movies in the high frame rate. I thought that was neat. And I think you're right. I think maybe Avatar 1 did it. That's it. I can't think of any others.
But Avatar also did 3D well. That's 3D can be done well. I just feel like, getting back to trends, 2010s, everyone was doing 3D, but there was a lot of like post-production 3D conversion that they were just slapping it on after the fact. So a lot of it looked like trash. Movies that were filmed with 3D in mind did a little bit better. But there were bad ones. Like, I think Clash of the Titans had, like, problems with its 3D. Like, the perspectives were off, if I'm remembering right. But there were some movies that benefited from it. Like, Dread in 3D looked awesome. Like, that one did it well because it was bright and colorful. People forget, like, they try to do, like, 3D for, like, dark action movies and horror movies. And it looked like shit because you would put the glasses on and it would darken the image and you just couldn't see anything. Like, I remember I saw Fright Night the Fright Night remake in 3D, and I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck is going on in this scene. And the Conan the Barbarian remake, I saw them both in the same night. Oh yeah, it was a great night. We saw Conan the Barbarian and Fright Night in 3D. And when it got dark, like when Conan's in the cave or there was a night scene in Fright Night, we couldn't see shit. In between those movies, we watched 20 minutes of the Glee 3D concert movie. And that was the best 3D movie we saw all night because it was bright and brightly lit and colorful.
That dates it just a little bit.
Yeah.
Glee.
I'm like, we saw 3 fucking 3D movies tonight, and the 20 minutes we saw of Glee was the best thing we've seen because we could actually see what was going on.
Oh my goodness. Best 3D movie I ever saw was probably Coraline, which is an animated film.
No.
You haven't seen Coraline, the film?
I don't remember if I've seen Coraline proper, but I definitely haven't seen the 3D version.
the 3D, if you had the chance to see in 3D, it's definitely worth it, because that was one of the few films where I felt like 3D definitely elevated the production. But
Nice.
I remember one time was a giant mistake, but I saw not the Blue People Avatar film, the little bald kid Avatar.
The Last Airbender?
Yes. Oh my
which
goodness.
I was supposed to be Jackson Rathbone's stand-in or body double. I tried out outfits for one day, and I didn't get a call back. But I got paid $7 to try on some of his outfits to be his stand-in. And that's probably why you don't like the movie, right? Because when they cut to his body double, it looks nothing
not
like
you,
him, right?
That's right.
Yeah. I feel like that was a lot of people's complaint. Everyone always says the problem with this movie is Jackson Rathbone's body double. He just doesn't look like him.
The 3D in that movie was so bad. I was like, is this even on?
That might have been the one where they did it in like post, like they filmed it not with 3D in mind.
Man, I like gimmicks. I'm not against gimmicks. Gimmicks are fun.
They can be. Oh, what I hate is 4DX. Have you done a 4DX movie?
You gotta help. Is 40 isn't the one where the chair moves?
Yep, that's the one where the
Oh, it
seats
is.
move and
Okay.
it sprays you with water and smoke fills the screen. I can't. I've seen 3 movies in 4DX. The first one was an accident. I thought I was seeing Godzilla King of the Monsters in IMAX, and I bought 4DX tickets. And I walk in and I can't see anything. There's so much smoke. I'm like, what happened here? And it turns out every time a building collapses in the movie, they put a smoke effect in the theater. But the entire end of the movie is Boston being destroyed. So the smoke from the previous viewing had not left the theater yet. And I had no idea that I'm like, is my seat shit? What is going on? And I got shot with water. Like, I turned my water off, but the seat in front of me was empty and the water was on, so it shot over the seat into my eye. And then I forced myself to see The Batman in 4DX, because that was the famous weekend I went to the Dick Show Road Rage in LA and had an edible that was way too strong for me. And I had to come back and watch The Batman, and I knew it was a long movie. I'm like, I'm going to fall asleep. I'll see it in 4DX so the chairs keep waking me up. And then Jurassic World Dominion, I went with my cousin and her daughters, and I told her, I'm like, hey, do me a favor, when you book the tickets, don't get 4DX. And she went, what's 4DX? And I explained it to her, and she's like, oh, the girls will love that, so we had to see it in 4DX. And then the youngest one was too afraid of the movie, so I had to stand in the aisle with her because she was too afraid of the seat shaking. So yeah, gimmicks like that I can't stand.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. I've only done. I don't know if they had any of the extra effects, but they did have the chair that moves around. I think one time when I went to Las Vegas Theater, what did I see? It was the first Despicable Me, which is an odd film. It was that or The Expendables.
Ugh. Classics all around. They're both classics.
Those are expensive gimmicks. So what are you working on now for your show? What kind of films are you into?
Well, right now I had started going through the Saw movies because there's supposed to be a Saw 11 this year, but I haven't heard any update on that. So now I'm like, should I pivot and not do all the Saw sequels? Because I don't know if there's an 11th film coming out this year. I'm about to go through and do a lot of the Mission Impossibles. I only ever did the first one because the Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, which now makes the previous movie sound stupid because it says Dead Reckoning Part 1. Anyway, that's a different problem. So I'm going to go through the Mission Impossible films. But yeah, so those are the 2 series that I'm going to try and focus on. There are some movies that are having big anniversaries this year. Let me pull up my calendar that I want to talk about. We're also going to start doing all the solo Superman films before the new Superman movie comes out. So we've already done the first one in Superman Returns, but we're going to start doing 2, 3, 4, and eventually Man of Steel. And we've been doing the Final Destination films because there's a 6th film coming out. So those are the franchises we're talking about. But yeah, later this year, we're going to do like From Dusk Till Dawn, Back to the Future, because that's got a 40th anniversary. We'll eventually get to the Fantastic Fours, because that new movie's coming out, which for every like 5 good things I see from that movie, there's like one thing that pisses me off. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm still figuring out the year.
You had a clip about doing the Crypt Keeper, I think.
Oh yeah, well, we did. I did Demon Knight for its 30th anniversary, the Tales from the Crypt movie.
Tales from the Crypt. Thank you.
Yes, and it inspired me to go back and watch the series because I didn't see enough of it growing up, and I never owned the DVDs or anything. So I've seen Tales from the Crypt, just not as much as I would have liked. And because there's a bunch of legal issues around who owns it, it's like not streaming. But that also means no one can take it down on YouTube because no one knows who should copyright claim it. So people have just been uploading them to YouTube. So I've just been watching Tales from the Crypt on YouTube. And there was a whole episode that was about the Crypt Keeper's origin story. And I was like, wait, that fucker has an origin story?
Oh, the bizarre origin story.
I'm going to do more solo videos like that. I could spoil the one I have coming up. Daredevil Born Again is coming out.
Yes, I'm hoping it's good.
Yeah, I hope it's good too. But like, I've read the Born Again comic and I have the Born Again comic, and I was skimming through it. And I'm like, oh, none of this shit's going to be in the series. So I'm going to do like a video where it's like 5 or 10 things from the comic that definitely won't happen in the show. Because they've already covered a lot of it. So it's like the Kingpin finding out he's Matt Murdock. It's like, well, they already did that. I think they're just using the Born Again name because they're coming back. I don't think the show will have anything to do with that movie.
You're probably right.
But yeah, that's it. I also have like Patreon. I'm doing a lot of commentary tracks and stuff on Patreon. I've always got something going. Gonna try and live stream some more. I haven't been live streaming as much as I wanted to just because I've been busy after the holidays. But I want to get back to playing some games. Mostly like horror and movie-based games. So check out. I have a second channel, Hack the Movies Clips and Streams. But I also have a Twitch, so you can check out all my live streams there.
How do you get the guests for your show? What kind of strategy do you use? Just
well, I mean, I just have regular co-hosts that are just like friends of mine or creators that I know. Do you mean like special guests, like when I interview someone, or?
Yeah.
Usually I just shoot them a message. Well, Mark Metcalf, I just met him at Monster Mania, and I just asked for his email. So he was able to do that. We had Joe DeRosa on the show. He had gone on a podcast and said he wanted to collaborate with me, and fans sent me that clip. So I like DM'd him, and it turns out my co-host Crystal actually knew him, so she shot him a message. Usually you just gotta message people and hope they're not like too big that it'll be ignored. Or if you meet them in person, try to meet them in person and try to build up a little connection there and see if they're interested and be in the show. I know a few years back I had Josie from Fish Tank on the show because I became a meme because I was one of the guys who wore her shirt and everyone made fun of us. But yeah, she saw the meme and thought it was funny, and fans kept tagging us, so I was able to get her because of that. But yeah, I wish I had a clear answer. It's just ask, and hopefully they're the right level of fame where it won't be ignored.
Okay. Well, I have a little bit more time with you, if that's okay. So I'll just ask extraneous questions. You were in LA recently.
Yes.
You got to hang out with mutual friend of the show, Vito. How was that? I've heard interesting things.
It was an experience. Everyone keeps saying, why did I do that? And I was like, one, just to cut down on cost. I needed a free place to stay. And two, I kind of knew it would be really funny. I kind of knew that I would get a lot of material out of that. And also, I just think he needed someone to hang out with. But yeah, that was an experience. We had a fun Costco trip where we made fun of the Costco guy. We did our own Costco guy video.
Vito defacing store property. Yeah.
Look, I'm not like super against it. We're like, yeah, they probably should have taken that off to sell the floor model. But like where I draw the line is that I'm not the employee, so I'm not going to do it. He's like, I'll help. And I'm like, well, you're not actually getting paid to do this. Why don't you just leave it alone? But yeah, LA was a good time. I did a bunch of videos with Dick Masterson out there. We did his baby's gender reveal. I got to be on the big gender reveal episode of the Dick Show.
Awesome.
So that was an experience. And then me and him shot a video for my channel that won't come out until like June, for the 30th anniversary of Judge Dredd, starring Sylvester Stallone.
See, you're thinking ahead. You have like all these things neatly scheduled.
Not neatly, but yes, there are. When it comes to anniversaries, I try to shoot those ahead of time. Just because, you know, it's something I can have on the back burner, and then when the time comes, this year I'm really trying to film a bunch of things in bulk early, so I have time to go away to like LA and not have to stress about like uploading videos.
That makes sense. Yeah, and you do a lot of cons. You're a con guy.
Not as many as I would like. I do a lot of local events, but the big cons I do are, well, I haven't had a table too many games. I just kind of am at too many games every year. But I do Monster Mania every time it's in Oaks, PA. And I do VHS Fest at the Mahoning Drive-In in Pennsylvania, which is a fun weekend. That's a really good weekend. And I have a local brewery near me called the Neshaminy Creek Brewery in Croydon. And I usually am at their screenings. I'll be there. Well, at the time of this recording, it's already passed. But if you follow them or me, you'll know when I'm there in Croydon, Pennsylvania. You can find me just hanging out in a brewery watching really bad movies on VHS.
Well, someone has to.
Yeah.
You're like, all my interactions with you, you're a pretty chill guy. But I think in the last year, I don't know why, but you do keep getting dragged into online drama. And I'm like, well, that's interesting.
I think it's just the company I keep. You know, some people would have stopped being friends with the wonderful Riley and Mint Salad. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep being their friends. And I stood by them because I knew he was innocent that whole time.
Yep.
Yeah, I did kind of accidentally cause that whole Eric July drama for the biggest problem in the universe. Oops.
It was a little bit like that meme where they have the guy who has, like, you know, it's like the huge stack of dominoes. And
yeah,
the stack at the bottom.
I think Vito made one once. And, you know, I profited the least off of all that because I just don't make fun of Eric. I mean, I make fun of Eric July, but I don't, like, do any shows or anything around it. Yeah. I'm like, oh, man, everyone's profiting off of this, and I'm the one who kind of kicked it off. Damn it. Well, actually, Vito complaining about it kicked it off. I just kind of fanned the flames that I saw. I poured gasoline on the fire, really. All he had to do was put out an okay comic, and it all would have went away, and he just didn't do it. I didn't know. It would be that bad.
I think people who do comics are just a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
That's seems of my experience.
I will not be making a comic book. I went on another show where they're like, will you be making comics? I'm like, absolutely not. Not anytime soon. There's a lot going on right now with the YouTubers making comics. And I'm like, I want no part of that.
Okay. They're not good. Well, a few are okay. A few. Into the Badlands was all right. I'll give them credit. And
I had a friend do a really good one. Cameraman by Xander Arnott, Xanderflix. I backed that campaign. I used to work with him. But yeah, I followed the whole production of that comic, and I got it recently, and it's really, really good.
Ooh, I might have to look that up then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Mint and Riley.
They're great.
Yeah, it was just also stupid. The whole thing from start to finish. I was just like, this is just.
I'm always around drama. It's rarely about me.
Drama is like that two-edged sword because it feels like on digital stuff, like if you play it right, it can really blow up your channel. But then I'm like, you're always fighting though. You're like always fighting with other people.
That's the thing, yeah. That's the thing. You don't want to be like, you don't want to fall into that where you need constant drama. I mean, that's why I feel like I'm annoyed with a lot of those anti-woke guys because, like, I agree with some of the things they're saying, but like, they're overdoing it because they know that is their meal ticket.
Exactly.
And they have to constantly be outraged and just assume everything is going to be bad and angry. I'm like, no, I'm like, some of these things are actually good. Like when they complain about diversity in films, I'm just thinking from a business point. Like I said with Marvel, it's like, well, nerdy white guys are the ones that spend money on this, and you haven't been giving them anything. But I saw that movie Love Hurts with Ki Kwan Short Round from Indiana Jones. That had a very diverse cast, and I loved every minute of that movie, and that was like a good time. And I feel like a lot of those guys would avoid it because they're like, woke Hollywood. I'm like, no, but it's actually like a really good movie. What the fuck is wrong with all you assholes?
I love Short Round. I'm glad he's getting. I'm really happy with this this late narrative where his career all of a sudden picks up out of nowhere. That was nice.
And I know people are like shitting on Anthony Mackie because they don't like him as Captain America. I like him as Captain America. I just don't like what they're doing with it. But he was in one of my favorite shows. I love the Twisted Metal TV show. I don't know if you got to check out any of that.
I did. I interviewed David Jaffe when we talked about it. Yeah, I have seen the TV show.
Yes, that show was great. That show was phenomenal, and he was great in it. I'm like, I feel like all those guys just didn't give it a shot.
That's the thing, right? I totally agree because it's like one, don't always assume something's going to be bad because it doesn't fit whatever you seem to like. That just seems like, any complaints of wokery, that's what they would do basically, and you're just kind of doing the reverse mirror image. And number two is there are usually multiple explanations for many things, and rarely the narrative that people have that's popular actually is what happened.
Yeah.
And they get both of those things. So
they
wrong.
really, I've been saying this a lot lately, but they really are like doing the SJW playbook where like everyone got tired of SJWs accusing everything of being racist and problematic, and everyone just stopped listening to them.
Yeah.
And these guys don't realize that they are now doing that. And like 3 years from now, people are going to be like, all right, yeah, it's woke. Who gives a shit? It was entertaining. Like, can you just shut up? Like a lot of those, the what is it, feminist frequency? Are they even around anymore?
No.
The Mary Sue, like, remember they were all over the place just yelling at entertainment, and everyone got tired of it. They're like, yeah, whatever. Then I can't watch anything.
And the odd woke thing is actually pretty good. Like,
yeah, I'm fine with it. Yeah, I like that stuff actually. If you're building a multi-million-dollar franchise and you need to sell merch, you should just know that little girl Iron Man is not going to do well, and I don't know why you even entertained the idea.
Exactly.
I love that they started making all that stuff a while ago, and now they have to release it when everyone's just done with it. They're like, oh, no one's going to watch Little Girl Iron Man, or what was that show that came out? I like the Hawkeye show, but then there was like, I'm Deaf Lady.
Native American Hawkeye.
Yeah, and I was
what
like,
you're talking about. I can't think of her name though.
Echo, that's her name.
Yeah.
But I remember watching the show. I'm like, what a boring character. And then they went, she's getting her own spin-off show. I'm like, why the fuck would you do that?
They got an actual.
Oh God, sorry.
You're fine.
Echo, go to sleep. Sorry, my Alexa goes by that name, and this happens a lot. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say the problem was with that show is they were like, we should get an actual deaf Native American wounded veteran. Wouldn't that be great?
I can't believe they
found
one. But yeah, that was the Ironheart show, and I'm like, oh, I would have just shelved this. Why are you doing this? Even Agatha All Along, which I heard was okay. I only got 2 episodes into it. It's like, we liked the Agatha stuff for like a week, and then you guys greenlit a whole show, and then it came out like way too late. I'm like, I don't care about this anymore. Like, the moment's passed.
Yeah, and it's really tied hard to WandaVision also.
Yeah, which I liked.
I do like WandaVision, but I think it didn't really define itself very well for who it was for.
Yeah. It lost a bit of steam at the end.
Yeah, and you being DC Comics, by the way, when I was a big comic book reader, I think you can see some of them in my background. You were right in the 2010s what they would do, because they got caught in like it was almost like a reboot every 2 years, I swear, every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, there was like Infinite Crisis in 2006 was a good time to reboot. But then they did like Final Crisis, and then the New 52. And
with Flashpoint, yep.
Yeah, and Flashpoint and all that shit. I was like, okay. I'm like, I can't really get invested in this.
It is really interesting. This is the one that fascinates me to no end. How you could watch how the fading popularity of the comics is now happening in the movies.
Yeah.
As they adapt the properties that were during that failing period of comics. It's just so interesting to me how much that kind of mirrors each other.
And I think like Marvel is trying to adapt comics made under the Disney ownership so they don't have to pay out like as much to previous people. I feel like that's why they're also pushing a lot of characters that were created under Disney's control, like the new Miss Marvel and all those other characters. They're like pushing them because they created them, so they probably have different contracts. Marvel is apparently like really bad at paying creators.
Yeah, that is what Ethan Van Sciver says.
Well, yeah, there was like that thing. Who created Thanos?
It's not
I
Rob.
think
I was gonna say it's not Rob Liefeld, but he recently
no.
He recently had a big thing with Disney too.
But like I heard, I think he also created KG Beast, and he got paid more for KG Beast's small appearance in Batman v Superman than he did for all of the Thanos stuff in the MCU.
Okay, it's not Jim Sterling, it's Jim Starlin.
Okay, yeah. Apparently DC pays out decently compared to Marvel.
They don't play as many games.
Yeah.
They will still on occasion still be weird games. Like
probably.
I forget. I'm trying to think. There's this ice. There's this. I remember for the Flash though. There's this female, ice villain, and they're
Killer Frost,
and they changed her name slightly. They're like, this isn't Killer Frost. This is off-brand Killer Frost. Not the same thing. Therefore, we have to pay you nothing. So they do some of that too, but it's not as bad.
Yeah.
Here. Boy. Well, Tony, this has been fun. I appreciate you taking the time to be on the show. Everyone should check out Hack the Movies. It's a fun show. I like putting on the background while I'm doing stuff and just listen to you guys go through movies. And you are always so well informed. You're really well.
That's not true. I screw up every once in a while, and the comment section will call me out. But thank you.
It's more homework than I probably should be doing more homework for this show. Like you do. Is there any project coming up or anything where you want people to go check you out? What should they do, Tony from Hack the Movies? Hack the Movies on YouTube for pretty much all my stuff. Hack the Movies clips and streams on YouTube for my live streams. Go to Twitch if you want to see me live. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter. Just look up Hack the Movies. You'll find me pretty much everywhere. And if you like what you see, head over to patreon.com/hackthemovies, where I have tons of commentary tracks and stuff there waiting for you. All right. Check it out. Okay, we're going to wrap this up here. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to watch CultureScape. This show would not be possible without the help of my wonderful editor, Chris Holowicki, who makes me look way more competent than I actually am. And, of course, viewers like you. You guys are the reason why I keep doing this. Thank you for watching the show. It's much appreciated. Until next time, friends, keep geeking out. Hey there, gang! If you are a fan of CultureScape, and I know you are, and want to get involved in supporting the show, well, now you can! By joining the CultureScape Patreon, you'll help support me and my editor, Chris, as we create the show and produce more quality journalism. For just $5 or $10 a month, you not only help us, but get access to our exclusive members-only Discord. You'll also get to vote on and suggest new guests for the interview. So if you are a fellow weeb and love CultureScape, then come join us today on Patreon.